Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? As we could see, and don't ask me why it's panning out like that. It's bizarre. Don't ask. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what goes on with this computer. Slowly getting my books in order. I still have a whole pile of books back there. Still putting the house together. I'm building everything with my bare hands. Taking me forever. And right now I'm doing a laundry. Finally. So I got Morgan Cat coming over here. And I just wanted to do a quick reading. Fun times. I don't know what I'm so lost with this system. Realms of the Dead. Chapter 12. The Eighth Sphere. We're going to start with that. But before we do, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Again, I'm in the middle of a huge ass transitional move. It's bad. At least I got my books on the shelf. Most of them. I am missing 2 bookshelves and I probably need a 5th. And then I'm putting all my Oracle cards up on a shelf for now until I can figure it out. And the cat's around here somewhere. Yeah. So it's been a process. It's a lot of work. I've been, for the most part, by myself doing it. I got walked through how to install my shit because Best Buy didn't install my stuff today. Yep. But if you get anything from my work, an epiphany, a mic drop moment, please consider supporting my work, and all the links will be in the description box of this video. The Eighth Sphere. Quote, "It is better for thee to enter into the kingdom of God with one eye than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire, where their warn dureth not, and the fire is not quenched." End quote. St. Mark. That just brings Odin to mind, because Odin's staring back there. Between each of the realms of the astral world, there is an intermediate state, which might be compared to an ante-room of the next succeeding realm. The same thing exists between the physical world and the astral world. This overlapping may be compared to the dark shadow of the earth stealing over the sun during an eclipse. Being the lowest of all, the desire realm touches the earth at its darkest point, and this overlapping forms an intermediate region into which the offscourgings of both the physical and the astral worlds are gathered. This region, therefore, contains the blackest thought forces and most of the evil entities and conditions created by man, which has been unable to redeem, and which therefore must be purified by the fires of disintegration. Here the atmosphere is formed by the foul odors and noxious gases arising from decay and disintegration in both the physical and astral worlds, as well as the illusvia caste of mankind. I don't know. I haven't seen that word in my life, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. As we have said elsewhere, this is the outer darkness into which the unprofitable servant is cast, which simply means that all the matter which should be the servant of its Lord, the Christ, but which fails to respond during one period of manifestation, must pass through a period of outer darkness or lie in the grave until the resurrection or the dawn of the next Manavaratia world period. In many respects, the darkness might be compared to the compost heap into which all refuse, effete, and unusable matter is cast, there to ferment in darkness until the night springtime, when it can be spread upon the earth and its life force, transmuted by the powers of the elements, be utilized to bring forth flowers, fruits, and grains for the service and sustenance of man. This accumulated mass is darkness because it is composed of dead matter and capable of reflecting light. Like the darkness of chaos, it is pregnant with the germs of that which ultimately come into the light and be redeemed by its creator. In the desire realm, a dim and brooding twilight forms its daylight, and oppressive darkness its night. But in this overlapping ant chamber, its darkness day is a murky and clammy darkness, while its night is a period of dense, impenetrable blackness, which is beyond the power of mortals to describe. It is a night beyond earthly conception. Indeed, it is well described as the outer darkness. The blackness is so dense and heavy that it surrounds those unfortunate enough to enter it and oppresses them as with the weight of centuries. They feel as though wedged in between mountains, yet all the time there is a sense of being alive and surrounded with horror unspeakable. This answers the question so frequently asked as to why man, although created a pure and perfect being, made in the image of God, would be subjected almost from the beginning to the temptation of disobedience and evil. He has to take up and redeem all his creations that have been left over from past world periods. It is the influence of these old creations of his that tempts him to continue their life by reaping and repeating the same old mistakes. This temptation in the Bible allegory is called the serpent, which was already in the garden before man appeared. Matter impregnated with his old creation and mistakes awaiting his coming for their redemption. This intervening region is called the eighth sphere, both because it is an addition to the sevenfold chain of globes constituting the earth chain, and because it is a double four, or the point where the foundation of one sphere, Earth, is merging into the foundation on which a better and higher planet will be built. For just as the effluvia of decay is transmitted into gas and then into new and useful products, so the deep repentance and realization of mistakes and crimes committed on Earth are here and made the foundation on which the new humanity could be brought forth. In this sphere are found those soulless mortals whose persistent refusal to respond to the guidance of the higher self through many lives or to listen to the voice of conscience have thereby atrophied, and the centers and avenues through and over which that guidance reaches the body and impinges upon the consciousness. When the atrophy of these channels of communication is complete and the human personality breaks away from the overshadowing soul or higher self and becomes but a soulless, hence consciousless human animal, such persons are not lost souls, for the soul is immortal and cannot be lost, but they are lost human animals. For it is the personality only that is lost, not the soul. These soulless beings are the Jack the Rippers, beings without a single redeeming trait, who commit the most atrocious and revolting crimes without a pang of conscience or remorse. We're seeing that now in society, aren't we? They cannot feel remorse for the soul whose childing causes the remorse has abandoned them. At death, such persons pass into the blackness of the eighth sphere, where they dwell continually surrounded by their crimes and often continually fleeing defiantly but hopelessly from the retribution they fear, which they imagine is pursuing them, as in the case of a man with a rope around his neck described in the remarkable communication from the astral world, 1851. A creature is described who had a rope around its neck, the hands being constantly trying to secure the ends. He is made to say, I am forever trying to escape. There is not a creature but wants to hang me. It is my one aim to prevent people getting hold of them. Whenever this foolish fear possesses me of flesh, I must run as though I had 1,000 lives to lose. Other dwellers in this region may remain chained in the consciousness to their victims. In many cases, their crime was the result of obsession. And now that they are freed from that obsession, they are brought face to face with the crimes and must realize their responsibility. Here also dwell the soulless monsters of lust, who while on earth have persistently and knowingly perverted the currents of creative force as it manifests through the sex centers. To correctly understand the condition in which the denizens of this region dwell, must remember that sex force is but one manifestation of the divine life essence, or the great creative force which is eternally bringing all manifested things into existence, and whose unceasing onward and upward urge is the force back of all evolution, forever transmuting matter into spirit, and ever seeking higher forms of expression. This force is a living, unquenchable divine fire, which should integrate, build up, and perfect, but which just as truly consumes the false and impure, that the life essence, which has been perverted, may be released and used for man's ultimate redemption. It is the divine fire of the Christ force that is referred to so frequently in the New Testament. He shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost and the fire. And he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner. But he will burn up the chaff with unquestionable fire. In other places, we are told that the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, etc. This realm, therefore, bears a close resemblance to the orthodox conceptions of hell, so graphically described in Dante's Inferno, which I've read on this channel, where the worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched. The worm is a continued gnawing of evil desires, which in this region have no means of gratification, not even through obsessing sensitive mortals still living in the flesh, as do those in the desired realms. The worm, therefore, is a continual disappointment, anger, and suffering arising from pursuing the tarantulas of expectations and fierce desires forever unfulfilled. The unquenchable fire is the divine fire of the Christ force, which slowly burns out the dross of impurity and ultimately disintegrates and consumes everything that prevents its manifestation in purity and truth, that the life currents may flow along normal and constructive lines. These entities of this region therefore suffer both because they cannot gratify their fierce desires, and also because they realize, even if vaguely, that their astral bodies are being slowly consumed. Still have sufficient intelligence to realize something of the horror of this condition and the dread of the ultimate destiny which they more or less vaguely sense. Such a state of consciousness is truly all that has been pictured by the Orthodox conception of hell. It is into this region that suicides precipitate themselves when they refuse to live out their appointed time on earth. When through vice, fearful crimes, and animal passions, a disembodied spirit has fallen to the eighth sphere, the allegorical Hades and the Gehenna of the Bible, the nearest to our earth, he can, with the help of the glimpse of reason and consciousness left to him, repent. That is to say, he can, by exercising the remnants of his willpower, strive upward, and like a drowning man, struggle once more to the surface. A strong aspiration to retrieve his calamities, a pronounced desire, will draw him once more into the earth's atmosphere. Here he will wander and suffer more or less in weary solitude. His instincts will make him seek with avidity contact with living persons. These spirits are invisible, but too tangible magnetic vampires. The subjective, demons, so well known to medieval ascetics, nuns, monks, to the witches, made so famous in the witch hammer, and to certain sensible clairvoyants, according to their own confessions. It is because Moses knew so well what they were and how terrible were the consequences to weak persons who yielded to their influence, that he enacted the cruel, murderous law against which such would-be witches. But Jesus, full of justice and divine love to humanity, healed and instead of killing them. Subsequently, our clergy, the pretended exemplars of Christian principles, follow the law of Moses and quietly ignore the law of him who they call their one living God by burning dozens of thousands of such pretended witches, obsessed mortals. Although they find themselves in this region of the soulless, the case of suicides is quite different from that of the entities described above. Although they are in a most pitiable condition and suffer most terribly, they pass out in such a depressed, despondent, or insane state of mind that the terrible thoughts gnawing sorrow and despair which caused the deep surrounded them like a shell or pall of black horror. This envelopes them so completely and is so dense that neither their spirit friends nor the spiritual helpers can reach them with their help until they make an opening in this black aura, either by sincere repentance or a definite aspiration for the Christ light. I have a lot to say about this. Had they resisted the impulse to suicide and remained in the body, the black mood and darkness despair would have passed away in a few hours, or at least in a few days, and by outlived and new conditions would be presented to themselves. But now, since they are continually surrounded by the same black thoughts which promoted the deed, they are impelled to reenact the scene over and over again, for they continue to live in the moment at which the deed was done. Since there is no division of time in this region, we have it on earth. The duration of time is marked only by sensation, and so long as the sensations endure, time stands still, and their despair seems endless. For no other moment can be experienced until the old sensations are worked out and exhausted, and new sensations can be experienced. I'm putting a pause there. So, I agree, but I don't agree with this statement about suicide, particularly. Why? My birth mother blew her brains out. My birth mother didn't suffer. It was in her script. It was in her contract. That's how she was supposed to leave. She's up in 5th density, possibly 4th. I don't know. Changes. And she has a divine job with God. Her soul healed instantaneously because of what she did with me. And she's in heaven. She's not in some sphere in darkness. It's what she wrote for her contract. We decide when we go. We decide the manner in which we leave. That's in our contracts with God, the Almighty, the All, the source of it all, the infinite intelligence, whatever you want to name it, give it a phrase. My uncle, my adoptive uncle, or my father's brother, he also committed suicide by blowing his brains out. He was stuck. He was in this 8th sphere. But it wasn't until my light started to shine as bright as it could possibly shine that he found me. And I was able, with the help of another medium, a physical medium, because I'm not a physical medium, get him into the right sphere, and now he's healing. And he died before I was born. Go figure that one out. So each soul has a choice, and it's a free will one at best, but every situation has a reason why things happen. So I just want to put it out there. So if anybody has lost somebody to suicide, and I have lost a shit ton of people, including my birth mother and my uncle. So though that's personal to me. Okay. It's family. Okay. And I have a bunch of friends that took their lives. That was in their script. That's what they wrote in for themselves. Okay. Everybody writes the manner in which they leave. Sorry, I hate to say that. There is a lot of predestined things. Yes, you have free will, but you already wrote your contract. You just don't remember. So the people, places, and things that you encounter on an everyday basis might be a free will kind of thing, but certain events that happen in your life, like where you're supposed to move, the people you're supposed to work with, the things that need to teach you a lesson, or the things that you need to teach people, they're going to present themselves when it's divine timing. So please understand, it's a touchy, suicide is a very touchy topic. A lot of people don't like to touch that with the 10-foot pole. I've been there, done that. Many, many suicides in my life. Okay. Everybody goes out in the manner in which they're supposed to. So I just want to leave that there. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm there. I've been through it with my friends, and I had to find out when I found out about my birth family that my mother took her life that way. It was not fun to hear that. It was not happy. It was not a happy time. And my family don't like to talk about her at all. So I don't know much about my mother. But what I do know is she's proud of me. She's watching me. She's protecting me. And she's upstairs. And she got divine jobs going on up there. So that's all that matters. My uncle finally got crossed over, but he was being watched. He was okay. He just needed that experience. And time is not relevant anywhere but here to us. Time for them is null and void. So what we think that, for almost 42 years, my uncle has been passed, could have been a blip on a freaking. So please understand those concepts and don't take, again, when this was written, a lot of things were not where they are right now in our knowledge and our understanding. And I just wanted to clarify that because I have that personal experience. Just know that, okay? It's okay to understand what they're saying when it comes to suicide, but that alone is nothing to know that if you lost somebody that they're there. Okay, just understand that 90% of the time when someone dies like that, they take their life, it was scripted and they're going upstairs. Unless they were the worst human beings in the world and they're going to a negative polarized place. But again, that's all of God anyway. It's all of God. And not of this density, by the way, of the all. Just want to put that out there. Back to the book, and I hope that you guys can hear me. Since they have refused to be comforted by time's healing hand, and as the allotted amount of life force they were originally able to bring with them into incarnation has not been exhausted either by living or used by sickness, they are not ready to enter the normal astral life. And so they have refused to go on with life in the physical world. They find the door is shut in both directions. I don't agree with that. And like a child who runs away from its tasks and shut itself in a dark closet, they realize that they are absolutely and terribly alone, that they are not in the realms with their departed friends. Neither can they return to earth, but they shut in with only the memory of their despair and the dreadful deed they have committed. Not in all cases. This, however, is not a cruel punishment, for only as they realize in its bitterest extreme, what it means to take their own lives can be so deeply imprinted on their consciousness that in no future life will they repeat the deed. For when the similar impulse comes at a corresponding period in the next life, for come it must, since the experience leading up to the deed must be met again and again until conquered, there will be such an inward horror that they will have gained, except in extreme cases, the strength of character to face conditions, resist the impulse, and conquer it. But unlike the case of soulless entities, there is hope, for as soon as the soul really repents, which is quite different from merely being sorry, a ray of light will be shown him, and if he follows this, it will lead him out of this outer darkness into the region of the astral world, to which he is otherwise affinitized, which is the case of my uncle, and I being the bright light that led him into that world. There are organized bands of nurses in the lower realms who are specifically and especially trained to help such cases, for they are too dangerous for the ordinary dweller in the astral to have anything to do with, even as such should penetrate into the outer darkness. Suicides realize that they are absolutely and terribly alone, and so seek the companionship of those left behind, and naturally throw over them the same pall of depression which overwhelmed them, so that the one whom they approach feels impelled to commit suicide in the same way, although the mere approach of the suicide to his friends tends to throw his condition over them quite unconsciously to himself. We have several students corroborate this teaching from other of their own experiences. In some cases, the loneliness and remorse of the suicide is so terrible that he deliberately obsesses some mortal and tries to get him to commit suicide, usually in the same manner, hoping thereby to gain his companionship. But even if such an obsession is successful, as it frequently is, the suicide is still disappointed and alone, for he is shut away from his victim more than before. The main thing to be remembered about suicide is that it never relieves the victim from the mental depression and suffering which he seeks to escape, but prolongs and increases it 1,000-fold. Now, again, I don't necessarily agree with that, because we sign up for those experiences to have a soul growth and soul knowledge. In some cases of bullying and children, especially, that's usually the case, where they're right back upstairs. And yes, there is a lot of healing that has to happen with them, and the angels and other special entities help them understand what went on. And don't think the souls who have committed the crime of torturing another don't get away with it. They do. They might get away with it in the physical, but not upstairs. And again, we all sign up for our experiences. So please understand, when it comes to suicide, as selfish as you think it is, it's not. There are some living circumstances. There are some circumstances that people just can't do it anymore. I've been in those places several times in my life. Okay. And that also implies that there is other elements of oppression. Entities do oppress, and it not necessarily dead ones. Other entities try to oppress. And in technicality, if you eat yourself to death or don't take care of yourself, that is a form of suicide. Because even though you didn't instantaneously take your life, you still perpetually took your life. In my opinion, that's just me. But I don't want anybody that has lost somebody to suicide or has a personal story to that get upset by some of these comments, because again, this was written in 1900s at a time and place where, yes, they are very highly advanced in knowledge of understanding these things, but we have come very far forward in understanding more of the divine plan and blueprint that can help us distinguish some of this stuff. One of my favorite topics, the elementals. Quote, substantial, but for us, invisible beings of an ethereal nature, living in the elements of air, water, earth, or fire. They have no immortal spirits, but are of various grades of intelligence, end quote, for Silicus Hartman. Quote, whether the results produce the style miraculous or not depends on our knowledge of all the powers latent in nature, and a knowledge of all the intelligence with which it exists. End quote. Raymond Lodge. It is the intermediate states previously referred to as existing between the various realms that are the abiding place of most of the kingdoms, races, and tribes of tiny beings called elementals. Not all of them are tiny, by the way. Matter, force, and consciousness is a trinity that is found everywhere in nature, inseparably blended. Therefore, not only does every form of matter have a consciousness of its own, but also every force in nature has a form of consciousness. These forces are entitized in various forms of life, called by the general term elementals, and as few people, even among occult students, have a clear idea of what it meant by the term. We will endeavor to make the subject somewhat clearer in these pages. The elementals are the various orders of entitized nature forces which, obeying the will of the creature hierarchies, bring into material manifestation the details of the grand plan of the universe. In other words, they are the means by which the divine life essence expresses the ideals in the divine mind through form. Hence, they are the intelligences whose manifestation bring about the normal flow of the earth currents and activities of nature. There is a wide range between the various manifestations of these forces, but in general, they are divided into 4 great kingdoms, each under the direction of the great master belonging to one of the creative hierarchies. These 4 kingdoms are the earth, whose elementals are called gnomes; water, whose elementals are the undines; air, whose elementals are the sifts, and the fire, whose elementals are the salamanders. I don't buy that. Each of these 4 divisions are broken up into many tribes and races, each with its own characteristics. We find them referred to everywhere in the literature under various names. In fact, almost every county, country, and every language has its folklore in which these elementals figure under various terms, yet all can be classified under these 4 main divisions. In each of the 4 kingdoms, there are elementals of varying degree of consciousness and intelligence, varying from the true nature spirits or rulers of their kingdoms, down to the rudimentary lives over which they rule. The rudimentary elemental lives are the very essence of physical substance, themselves of their life manifestations, give to the various forms of matter their chemical properties. There is almost as great a difference in form and consciousness between the nature sprites and the rudimentary elemental lives as there is between man and insects. While man, being the Lord of creation, lives in all of the 4 elements, earth, air, water, and solar fire, or heat, the elementals live water, hang on, I lost my place. I'm so used to saying earth, air, fire, water. It's just the way everything is. Elementals live exclusively in one element. The conditions of each element are as normal to its inhabitants as physical conditions are to man. For instance, to the gnomes, the earth is a transparent and offers no bar to their progress or activities, while the salamander lives as naturally in fire as man does in air. Besides the 4 great classes of elementals, there is a class which along elemental differs widely from those already described. As we have stated in the previous chapter, there are soulless beings who have broke away from the informing ego. These beings, after a few incarnations on earth, exhaust every remnant of informing soul's life force and reach a point where the atoms composing their astral bodies are disintegrated into the 8th sphere. After such disintegration, since in the great economy of nature nothing is lost, the elements composing those bodies must start a long cycle of necessity and pass through the stages of experience as elemental forces in nature, passing through the mineral, vegetable, etc. Hence, in this region of the elementals, the forces once composing those bodies have reached a state where they have become elementals, but they differ from nature and natural sprites into that the substance of their forms has once existed in human bodies, while the nature sprites animate only the elements. This class of elementals are the rudimentary and lowest astral forms of future man. here in the realm of the monad, must evolve through the nature states until taken up and built into the human kingdom as molecules in the lowest form of physical man. The soul, which once broke away from the physical body, must again gather these forces and atoms together and build new bodies, which it can inform. Hence why QHHT, Dolores Cannon's method, you were once the rock, the mountain, the tree, the veggie, until you got an avatar. All four classes of nature sprites are made into the miniature image of man. Some, such as the gnomes, are often distorted and grotesque, but the sprites of the other kingdoms are most beautiful, dainty, and fairy-like. Indeed, they are fairies themselves. In many cases, it is such elementals and mischievous nature sprites, especially the gnomes, who impersonate the departed at a seance, for they are delighted in their power to deceive and play all kinds of pranks on both the medium and the sitter. The nature sprites belong to the highest races of each great kingdom, but the subject is so vast that in this work we must confine our few subsequent remarks to the four classes of nature sprites only. Among them, we find a vast number of races and tribes, varying as widely as do the several races and tribes of mankind. And just as with man, each tribe has its home in a certain locality on Earth, and it's largely confined to that region. For instance, every region of Earth, such as mountain, valley, or plain, has its own particular tribe or gnome, which are not found in any other part of the globe. In the same way, every form of water, babbling brook, meadow, stream, broad river, lake, sea, or ocean, has its particular tribe of undines. The air also has its many races of sifts. Every type of wind, from the gentle ziffers of summer and the steady trade winds, the winds of land and sea, to the storm winds and tornadoes, have their own characteristic tribes. For instance, among the gnomes, there is a race of gold elementals, to which all belong the tribes who connect with the various deposits of gold in different parts of the world. Oh, that should be interesting with the Anunnaki. Another race is composed of the tribes connected with copper, and so on. For each metal, rock, and earth, gold being the highest metal, the tribes of all other metals are subservient to its ruler, the gold gnomes. There are other tribes belonging to the vegetable kingdoms which guide the elemental lives in building up the grass, the trees, the flowers. It is because the people who live for a long time in one locality imbibe and have built into their bodies, through the food they eat, the water they drink, and the air they breathe, the elemental forces of that locality, that they take on the peculiarities of their region and feel at home there. Persons who do not live in one place long their elemental forces so mixed that they feel no special attraction to any one locality. While the elemental forces of all four kingdoms are more or less responsive to man's thoughts and desire forces, only the more advanced, such as the natural sprites, are sufficiently individualized to communicate with man under certain conditions, as we find witness to it in the literature, philosophy, and religion of all ages and among all peoples. It is not that these sprites speak to man in English, French, German, Japanese, but rather that certain sensitive mortals are able to attune their consciousness to that of the sprites and then express that consciousness in the best words they mentally are capable of doing. It is easiest for man thus to communicate with the gnomes, as they are the closest to man and most easily made friends with. while communion with the undines and sifts is more difficult. It is the most difficult of all for man to communicate with the salamanders, for with few exceptions, they are antagonistic to men unless he has, in a measure, been able to enter consciously into the higher kingdoms, in which case they will be his obedient servants. In fact, all the elementals obey man when he can prove to them his superiority. But since they obey and recognize forces rather than their mere form of man, the man who would dominate the elementals, either for good or evil, must be forceful, must prove his ability to rule. This is more effectively done, however, through real love and understanding of their true nature, than through mere willpower. American Indians in the astral world, being earth children and living so close to nature, are in very close touch with the gnomes and earth elementals. In fact, those of them who earnestly desire to help in the great work of evolution, and there are many such, use their human intelligence to tutor the rulers of the earth elementals, even lending to them the power of speech, so that such rulers may come into contact with those upon the earth plane who could aid them by bringing them in contact with the implanting in them love and brotherhood from the human kingdoms. For the elementals obeys man's thoughts and work it out on their own kingdom. Evil elementals are but elementals instinctually working out man's evil thoughts, either in a vague way, bringing pestilence and disaster, or in a more definite way, if the evil is given forth by a strong mentality, one who attracts these forces strongly and commands them to work out definite evil ends. And that ends chapter 12 and 13. So the next time I read, we're going to go over fairies. It is a very big, there's a lot of pages here. And a lot of prophecy about the fairies. I have a lot of fairy guides, spirit guides, a lot of them. I haven't seen them though. But many of us do. Because we've lived those lives in those realms. So I'm going to end it there so there's no confusion between what we just read and then fairies, gnomes, not the sock gnomes that steal the socks out of the laundry. Those are a little different, even though they're mischievous. Again, we have to put into context when this book was written and the ideals and the positioning of society and understanding what suicide really is. And everybody's experience in that knowledge is different based on your religion and your spiritual path. When you objectively look at something from the outside in and understand that we sign up for each and every experience that we put into here, even with free will, not many things are a choice for some. I know that most of my life is scripted already. Some of it is a bummer wheel, bummer moment, and some of it isn't. But they're all learning experiences for my soul to grow so that I don't need to be stuck in this goddamn shithole. And not to say that my house is a shithole, but Earth in third density. Even though I think we're in fourth. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm ranting. I'm hoping to do more of these if it wasn't for the fact that I'm doing laundry. I really needed to do it. I would have probably already passed out. My hands are already calloused in many places. I know it's hard to see. I got blisters all over the place. I have puncture wounds. I have an actual cut in my muscle, like not cut like physical cut, but like swole. I'm like getting jacked. And I built a lot of stuff. If you follow me on Facebook, you've seen all the stuff I built. It's a lot. A bar, a kitchen island, a couch, a TV stand. And not that I watch television, but I'm going to put one up so that I can watch YouTube on it. A pantry, 2 beds, 1 display case. I have another one I have to build. I have something for the bathroom that needs to go because there's like nowhere to put your shampoo and nowhere to put your towel and where to fetch your towel and holy crap. So there's a lot that I still have to do. I still have stuff in storage. This made me really happy though today. I got my books somewhat in an order. And then that wall is going to be covered with books. And I'm still working maybe on a background and like if I'm putting artwork up or whatever. I don't know yet. I'm still coordinating a composition. Still. But such is life that sometimes you just have to take time out and do what you need to do to get things done. I miss everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed that little short read. I know I say I hate when I break the words that I say, and it irks the living shit out of me because I'm not a liar. And I always have the best intentions to get videos out and to have updates. Not much to update besides I got my washer and dryer today. I'm gonna get my oven and my dishwasher installed next week. I have a fridge coming in February. Can't really do much when it's raining because my storage unit has mud all over the place. And I still need to run a van. And I have a whole shit ton of things that I need to throw out before I can even go back and forth to the storage unit. So it's just a lot of stuff. I do apologize to everybody. I just want my life back. And I'm building physically and literally my life. So I'm thankful for everybody who's stayed tuned and stayed with me, and it's gonna get better, I promise. I keep telling myself that because there's no other way but going back up, right? So sending each and every one of you love and light. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I have a lot of content and I deliberately did that before I left New York so that people could catch up during this transitional time. I hope you don't hear that noise. It's coming from my laundry room, so I'm hoping something is not off. But sending you each and every one of you love and thank you and gratitude and anything you can do to get the word out. I have something really, really important I'm going to discuss on a spiritual soul advice recording that I might do tomorrow because it is stupid important and people are missing the mark on a lot of things right now. That I feel that needs to be at least looked into. So stay tuned. I'm gonna be here. Amish mindset. Please don't forget about doing something on an everyday basis to help somebody else out. Because that's what's missing in society. Till the next one, guys.